Has your Gurukul classes started? Are students coming now?
Students are asked to join with us. All the students are asked to join.
Okay.
Because every day classes are going on by Zoom only. Online classes.
You can be very comfortable and go on telling your memories and all that.
Actually, I am shifting my place from office to another room.
Yes.
Hello, sir.
Sir, namaste, sir.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. We are now live, Facebook live.
Okay.
Uh,
Sir, one thing,
let me
how
start. Yes.
Can I use my headphone or it
No,
is
you
audible?
are audible. You are audible.
Okay. And
Perfectly
another
audible.
thing is how to change the presentation slides.
No, I will be changing that because I will be sharing that. Okay. So you tell me.
Yeah.
You say next, and then I will do.
Just to say change. Next.
Yeah, something like this. Okay. But let me start. Good evening, everyone. I welcome you all. I welcome Umapati Acharya ji from Kumbakonam. He is joining us. I welcome Dr. Prabhakar Apte, a great scholar of Sanskrit and a former professor, Deccan College, and a great support for Samanvay Pratishthan. On behalf of Oriental Institute Thane and Samanvay Pratishthan, I welcome you all, those who are watching us live on Facebook as well. And let me tell you briefly, we have started in the last month, Samanvay Pratishthan. It is a platform. We want to propagate Indian ethos, Indian ideas, Indian literature, Indian tradition, literature, fiction, all things which are related to India and Indian ethos. And that is why for last 3 Mondays, the videos are available on our Facebook page. Dr. Apte is speaking on various issues. In the last lecture, he spoke in Sanskrit about temple architecture. And today we got Umapati ji only because of Dr. Prabhakar Apte. So I thank him in the beginning itself. And now I request Dr. Prabhakar Apte to kindly introduce Umapati Acharya ji, who is joining us from Kumbakonam. So I request Dr. Apte ji.
So thank you, Prashant. Now to tell in brief about Umapati Acharya, he is the Kula Guru of TVS Shilpa Vidya Gurukulam, started 3 years back at Kumbakonam itself. Now this TVS company has undertaken the work of renovation of Sri Ranga temple near Trichanapalli, and their budget is of several crores, and they require hereditary boys to join their work. Therefore, they started the Gurukulam at Kumbakonam, and Umapati Acharya and his elder brother Veeranathan, they both are the Kulagurus of this TVS Shilpa Vidya Gurukulam, and their hundreds of generations have done the same work of building temples, building other monuments, and also creating icons. So their job is skilled work of, and in order to revive that skill, they have taken the boys between 12 to 14 and they are training them, and there will be a band of skilled hereditary architects they've created, trained by them. So with these words, I and another one more thing is he treats me as guru, therefore he is my disciple. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Apteji. I am very much obliged to have Dr. Shri Umapati ji today. Briefly, I'll be introducing him to my, viewers. KP Umapati Acharya ji did his post-graduation in public administration, but there was never any doubt in his mind that one day he would follow in the footsteps of his ancestors, the traditional Sthapatis from the Vishwakarma community. His father Acharya Yan Panchapangesan was a well-known Vedic and Shilpa Shastra scholar, taught to him not only the nuances and practical aspects of temple architecture, but also traditional Shilpa texts. Shri KP Umapati Acharya has presented many research papers at seminars and authored articles on temple architecture and sculpture. He recently published 3 Shilpa Shastras, Shilpa Vidya Rahasyopanishad, Technical Terms in Shilpa Shastras, and Ratha Lakshana. Apart from such academic work, he is constructing new temples and helping to restore old. In 2004, he was given Best Artist Award by Government of Tamil Nadu, and 2008 he was honored by the Shanta Prasad Award for Outstanding Excellence in Traditional Knowledge and Skill by the Craft Council of India. In the year 2013, he had awarded the prestigious title Abhinava Sarvasiddhi Acharya in Badami. Shri Acharya always interested to teach Vedas and Shilpa texts and practical intricacies of temple architecture and iconography. He and his brother are working to revive the Vishwakarma's traditional knowledge system. I am truly obliged to have him here today. So I welcome you, sir, and I request you to please start your presentation. I will share the presentation here. Yes, sir. Can you see this, sir? Is it
I'm not
visible to
seeing.
you now? Yes.
It is in a small format.
Yeah. Now, Sri Mahalakshmi, can you see the screen?
Now it is.
Apteji? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Am I visible?
Yes, you are
Yes.
visible and audible. Please start, sir.
Audible,
Thank you very
good.
much.
Om Namah Shivaya. Shri Mahalakshmi, the Devi of beauty and wealth, I prostrate in front of her. Next. Next. Please set the Veda mantra. Audio.
Okay. Just a minute. We'll try to see this, but I think it is only visible here on the screen. We'll see.
Okay. I will tell.
Okay.
Ah.
Yeah. Was it audible?
Not audible.
Oh, I think there is some problem here that we can't.
Okay.
Okay. If possible, if you could recite that sukta for us, then.
You make it visibility.
Okay.
Single slide. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, that's okay. That's okay.
Okay.
Om Sinturam Panchavakram Dasabhujavayam Pustakam Likita Katkam Gathangam Bijapuram Amrita Kalasam Kandiham Makshamadham Trishula Jhanamudram Asura Guru Hom Vishwakarmam Namami. According to Dveta, in the 10th mandala, the sloka number, sukta number 1081, it says that, O Lord Vishwakarma, you are making all this world as part of sacrifice. The see, our father is seated as an invoker. He himself entered into all manifested being. So our pranam, humble pranams to Sri Vishwakarma. Before I starting it, I extend my gratitude to the organization as well as Dr. Bedekar and Prashant and the great Sanskrit scholar, Professor Dr. Prabhakar Apte and friends. So it is a great opportunity for me to speak about approaching the architecture through Shilpa text. It is my privilege as well as it is an very good opportunity for me to speak about some of the basic ideas of the Shilpa text as well as the temple architecture. Here, there are art historians, art critics. They are talking, writing so many things about the temple architecture, and they had published many books and doing research. But at the same time, the practitioners of the temple architecture after independence were not properly treated, so that the tradition of keeping the Shilpa text as well as the practice is very rare, among the rarest. So now the Bedekar, Dr. Bedekar, Dr. Apte and Prashant extend an invitation to me to talk about the temple through Shilpa text by a traditional architect, traditional practicing temple builder. Previous slide. My humble pranam to the great kings, queens, and saints who were very much think about the architecture, and their soul were deep in the spirituality. They constructed thousands and thousands of temples all over India. Not only the present political boundary, but the cultural boundary of our Bharatavarsha. So I pranam, my humble pranam to each and every kings, queens, saints, and general public, our ancestors, for their effort, for their idea to propagate about our spirituality to the generations to come. Next. Homage to anonymous saint architects. In our country, we have a system. Whatever we are doing, we are not doing according to our own wish or the intelligence, only by the grace of God. Our ancestors, the architects, most of them never put their signature in the temples. Sometimes they put their signature. There is some inscriptions, but most of that is a very, very smallest percentage. So they never think about their name because they strongly believe that the temple was constructed by God Himself through Him. The Vishwakarma community always in their mind that we are not constructing the temple, we are only a tool in the hands of God. So God is creating, so our name, it is not at all necessary. Next. Next.
Yes, yes.
Hello.
Just.
Hello.
Yes, yes. Hello.
Next slide. These are all Chola temples in Tamil Nadu. My homage to the chief architect of the Virupaksha temple, which is situated in the Pattadakkal in Karnataka state. The temple constructed the 7th century. The chief architect of the temple, Brahmastri Sarvasiddhi Acharya, Brahmastri Gunda, Tirubhuvana Acharya, the two great architects were constructed this Pattadakkal temple, very, very beautiful temple, one of the gem in India. Next. Next.
It takes little time. Just. Yes.
So, homage to the architect of the Lord Subramanya temple, Brahmastri Asiri Virapacharya. The temple situated within the premises of Tanjore Bragadishwara temple, generally called the Big Temple. So I pay my humble homage to the architects. During the period of invaders, many temples were destroyed. After that, the British people came and they never considered our temples, our craft work as a real art, but simply as a little or unworthy. So during that period, some of the great Indians and one British man came and they had written so many books about in defense of the Indian architecture, the secret behind the Indian architecture and culture. So I pay my humble homage to the great exponents of Indian sacred art tradition, Sri. Next. Yogi Sri Aurobindo. He had written so many articles about the Indian art and its value and its significance in a very extensive manner, especially for the European readers. Next. Is another great man, Sri Ananda Kendish Kumaraswamy, generally called as Kumaraswamy. He had written more than 4,000 articles about Indian art and architecture. He is one of the great exponents, and he opened the eyes of the Europeans as well as the Americans regarding the Indian art and its tradition. Sir Ernest Brinfield Havel, called as E.B. Havel, a British man who always respected the Indian art, and he understood the Indian art and architecture in a right perspective, and he had written so many books and articles about Indian art. Is one of we must, all Indians must respect the E.B. Havel as our gratitude. The picture shows Shilpa Samrat Brahmashri K. Vayaburi Acharya. He is my grandfather. He was considered as a Samrat in architecture and sculpture in the entire South India. He was he is inspiring me most to how to look the temple, how to approach the Sastra. All these things I have the inspiration from him, my dear grandfather. Shilpa Chintamani, Acharya N. Panchavacation, my father. From him, I learned is a drawing, both Indian system of drawing as well as Western system, Sanskrit, Vedas, and Shilpa Shastra from him. He is a very modern man with a strong belief in the traditional values, and he was teached very much about the intricacies of our architectural tradition. My pranams to my father. So what is Indian architecture? What is the Indian civilization? The Indian civilization is not only a great cultural system, but also an immense religious effort of the human spirit. A spiritual aspiration was a governing force of this culture. It's a core of thought and it's a ruling passion. A collective consciousness is a basis to our arts. Every civilization has its own aim. Compared to India, some of the oldest civilizations, Rome, Greek, Egypt, those civilizations having certain aims that is completely materialistic. But our Indian civilization is very unique. The aim of our civilization is a spiritual aspiration. Spiritual aspiration was a governing force of this culture. For example, Plato, Aristotle, and the host of the great philosophers coming up to Hegel, they are living in a utopia. They are always thinking about the perfect state, ideal state. They had written volumes of books about the ideal state, ideal king, ideal man, ideal citizen, etc., etc. But that it is full of imagination. But in our country, our rishis, munis, they are always thinking about the evolution of humanity and what is the duty of a man, what is the duty of the king to attain the moksha. And they help us, rishis, munis will help us to understand the birth of the civilization, or the birth of a human being, etc. So they were our rishis and munis giving guidelines. They are never attached to any wealthy materialistic material world. They are detached from the material world. They are giving instructions, living among the people, so that our philosophy is never the ideal state, but a vibrant and dynamic spiritual society. That is why the Kalidasa, the great poet, that's why the Kamban, the great poet, were written the masterpieces in poetry. Ramayana, Mahabharata, Tattva Sastras, Targa Sastras, so many branches of the knowledge were analyzed in depth, in different angle, in different perspective. They have written so many things to enrich our culture, to enrich our understanding, to enrich the power of cognition. That is why our society, our Bharatavarsha, having a collective consciousness towards this spirituality. That the collective consciousness of this spirituality is very basic idea for the construction of the temples. According to Shilpa Vidya Rahasya Upanishad, a revered Shastra says that spirituality is the secret of art. Shilpam becomes yajnam. The philosophical ideas becomes architecture. The spirituality is the secret of art. It is not art for art's sake. What is the architecture for a living place? No. What about the sculpture? It is not the problem of vacuum and value, but spirituality is the main idea of architecture and art. Silpam become yajna. Silpam bhavat yajnam. It is mentioned in the Shilpa Rahasya Upanishad. The philosophical ideas become architecture. We will discuss about it, how the architecture and the philosophy mingled together and how it is working. Here our ancestors choosing the place according to the specific as well as the special, the spiritual quality of your place. That is why they are searched and they are find which place is suitable for the temple. In Satvada Samhita, it is mentioned the yogis wandering towards in the forest, in the plain. So they identify certain places which is more spiritual intensity than that of the other places. They immediately go for constructing the temple. Here, a very big temple, very near to the sea, very near to the sea. On the seashore, the Tiruchendur Subramanya temple was constructed is more than 3,000 years ago. It was mentioned in the Sangam literature also. Every day, thousands and thousands of people visiting the place. How our ancestors are having such a capability to construct a very big temple adjacent to the seashore. Next. So Mahabalipuram, similarly, very big temple was constructed adjacent to the sea. Next. Not only our ancestors know the soil mechanism, in the hilltops and mountain tops they constructed the temple. I think this temple is situated in Maharashtra. Next. The temple Nathamalai in Tamil Nadu, it is constructed in the early Chola period, the top of a hill. It is still intact, because if it is in the mountains, they have to take the rough weather condition and speed of the wind is different in every day. But even after it, even more than 1,500 years, the temple is intact. Next. It is in Badami, is another temple built on a hill. It is a Badami cave temples, not only on the top of the mountains, cave temples also, they carved caves. The cave temples also very famous in our country. In Ajanta, 3rd century BC, our ancestors carved the temples in the range of temples from 6th century up to 6th century Common Era. This is a Badami cave temple. This is in, I think so, Karle. It is in Maharashtra state, cave temple. Next. So, seashore they built, mountain top they built, cave they carved, and then on the banks of the river, they constructed the temple. Actually, most of the bank of rivers are in a loose soil, but they constructed the temple. It is in Tadipatri in Andhra Pradesh, one of the very excellent temple, the banks of Pennar, near a river. Next.
Adipatri, Tanjore.
Not only in that, their plains are plain in Deccan Plain, especially that Tanjore, very fertile land and having the loose soil. The great Prakadishwara temple of Tanjavur is already 1000 years is completed, still majestically standing. It is a great temple. So, how it is possible for our ancestors to build all these temples? How they have the capability as well as the skills of their management in different level. They gather their experiences, and there is no experiment in our Indian system. There is no experiment, there is no trial and error method. So all these ideas, the concepts, the valid data, everything is in the mind of the Muni and Rishis. They recorded in Shastra, what we call as Shastra. They called Shilpa Shastras. The Shilpa Shastras explaining how to construct the temple. This palm leaf manuscript is more than 600 years old. It is in my family possession. It is one of the rare Kashyapa Shilpa text. So how many Shilpa Shastras are there? There were thousands and thousands of Shilpa Shastra. One Gujarati manuscript explained Vishwakarma Darshana, a text was compiled very long before the about 2000, more than 2000 years ago, in which 1000 Shastras were mentioned. Vishwakarma Darshana. But most of the Shastras were gone. Now we have only few things, few Shilpa Shastras only. Vishwakarma Prakasha, Vishwakarma Darshana, Vishwakarma Vastu Shastra, Vishwakarma Vamsagama, Manasara, Mayamata, Moolastamba Nirnaya, Sakaladigara, Saraswatiya Chitrakarma Shastra, Samarangana Sudradhara, Shilparatna Gosha, Shilpa Prakasha, Kashyapa Shilpa Shastra, Shilpa Vidya Rakasyopanishad, Garge. These are some of the texts now available. Just like that, Narada Shilpa, Aparajita Puricha also available. So here, what is the quality and what is the definition for the Shastra, especially of Shastra? It says Mahartha Alpagrantaha. If Mahartha Alpagrantaha, each and in the Shilpa text, they are not very, very big in volume, but they are in small chapters in which all the technical details are compressed. All the symbolism was compressed. So the Grantha must be, the Shastra must be very small, but its meaning must be very wide. So Mahartha Alpagrantaha is the definition or the Lakshana for the Shilpa Shastra. It is a Orissa based Shilpa text. Next. These are all palm leaf manuscripts. In manuscripts itself, the drawings were made. Drawing on the temple. Next. Prashant, next slide. The left side, there is a temple plan in the manuscript. On the right side, yes, Sthapati, not long ago, about 100 years, 1927, the Sthapatiya Vishwakarma was making a drawing in a temple wall. The photograph collected by Dr. Ananda Kumaraswamy. Next. So, I request the viewers, let you imagine any of the temple while you are visiting often, and it is a memorable experience in a certain temple. So you connect yourselves to the old temple, not the new temple. Old temple like Lakshmi Mata temple in Kolhapur, or the Shiva temple in Gangaikonda Cholapuram and Kumbakonam. So you connect yourselves with any one of the temple. Now we are entering what are the qualifications for a Sthapati. Who is Sthapati and what is his qualification? The Sthapati name is not a professional name, but as a caste surname of Vishwakarma community. Next. What are the qualifications for a Sthapati? According to Ananda Kumaraswamy, one great quotation, a direct dependence upon the Vedic source. For example, in a statement that the master architect and also his 3 companions or assistants are required by the way of professional qualification to be acquainted with the Vedas and their accessory sciences. So the Vedic knowledge was insisted, not the mere Vedic knowledge, not the Veda with knowing the Veda or having the capacity to remember the entire Veda, not at all. But the Sthapati, a Vishwakarma, must depend upon the Veda for all his intuition, for all his imagination, for all his ability to execute the projects. Next. Basic qualification of a Sthapati. He must be hails from Vishwakarma community, born from a noble family, excellence in Veda, excellence in Shilpa text, well-versed in Puranas, expert in the following subjects. Here, just imagine, connect yourself with a old temple and think whether these subjects are in directly connected with that temple construction activity. What are the subjects? He must be expert in the following subjects: astronomy, astrology, animal behavior and language, civil engineering, calligraphy, culture of different countries, economics, epigraphy, etymology, geography of different countries, geology, history of different countries, knowledge management, material management, mathematics, mechanical engineering, military engineering, music, optics and light engineering, painting, philosophy of different religion or sects, phonetics, process fluency, prosody, quality management, sculpture, sound engineering, surveying, and town planning. These are the subjects a Sthapati must be an expert. What are his personal qualities? Always speak truth, charitable in giving food to others, compassionate, faithful to his friends, firm in decision making, good reputation, happy in mind, self-control, should not be greedy, soft-spoken, sweet-tongued, should be free from addiction to liquor, addiction to women, should not resort to blackmailing, he should not indulge in daydreaming, gambling, and hunting. He should always be curious and eager to learn other sciences. He should always try to learn from the others. These are all personal qualities of the architect, Indian architect. Some of them, in some seminars, people are asking me, sir, is it possible for a man having such a long list of subject, expert in the subject, as well as his personal qualities, for which we have some references. In one reference, in the 11th century Kata temple in Yanara in Padinam, the inscription says that about a architect Vishwanatha. The architect Vishwanatha, born in the family of Vishwakarma, the architect of the three worlds, Vishwanatha, son of Basavacharya, who was the son of Vadayappa, considered being the Jagat Guru. The architect Vishwanatha was having such a quality, having such a knowledge and tapas, so he was considered as a Jagat Guru. The title always given for the sannyasis of great Pitadipadis is another inscription. What you are seeing in Pattadakkal, in left side, two small pictures. It is the entrance of the Virupaksha temple, this temple. The left side, inscription about the chief architect, Sri Sarvasiddhi Acharya. On the right side, inscription about Tribhuvana Acharya. What the inscription says that the Sarvasiddhi Acharya, as him of various qualities, the Pitamaha, the creator, the maker of many cities, houses, whose conversation is entirely perfect and refined. He is hailed as a jeweled crown and crust jewel in the field of construction of palaces and temples, vehicles, seats, and couches, the most eminent Sudragrahi of the southern country. It is about Sarvasiddhi Acharya, that is a chief architect. The another architect is Gunda Tribhuvana Acharya. The Tribhuvana Acharya also 3 times crowned with the special titles by the Chalukya kings. This is another piece in one of the museum in Europe. It says that Chandoja, this Brahma sculpture, very beautifully carved according to the measurements and the system mentioned in the Shilpa text. It says that the inscription at the bottom of the figure, Chaunda, a son to all women, a disciple of your learned of the Saraswati Ghana, worshipper at the feet of Sri Vidhi Deva of pure lineage, the son of Gulugoja, who was architect of the Trilokya Mata. Trilokya Malleshwara of Kuruvati, made the image of Brahma. Properly understood, the inscription provides three important pieces of information regarding the Brahma and its creator. The image made by Chavundoja, he belonged to Saraswati Gana or the Saraswati group, and he was the son of architect of the Trilokya Malleshwara temple in Kuruvati. The father and son both are the very great architects. Here, there is one word is very much impressed me. Cha Udoja, a son to all women. If a person consider all the women except his wife as sister or the mother, that's okay. There is not at all anything is very unique. But here, the Chavundoja, the sculptor, because of his qualities, a son to all women, is a woman of 12 years or 18 years or 25 years or 40, 50, 60, 80, and so on. So every woman consider him as a son. We do not know what is his age, but it is one of the rare among the rarest inscription about the architect Chavundoja. It is one of the greatest testimony for our Silpa text. The Silpa text mentioned the qualities. Yeah, inscription is available. The inscription belongs to that of the, probably it may be of 11th century. Next. There is another inscriptions. Is another temple in Tamil Nadu, Kadambar Malai. There is a mountain at the feet of the mountain, a very beautiful temple constructed during the period of Chola kings. In the temple, a long inscription, that is a right side, in a rock, there is a very, very big inscription in which is stated that Akalanga Achari, that is the name of the architect of the temple, and his father, both were constructed the temple as well as they constructed some other temple in nearby villages as well as some renovations work. In which what is the uniqueness of this inscription? It states that not the king not giving wage, not giving the labor, compensating his labor, but it says that it is a Acharya Dakshana. It is very clearly says that it is not a gift, but it is a Acharya Dakshana. So our kings were very much respected the knowledge of the Vishwakarmas, the knowledge of the spiritual ideas, as well as the handling of so many things at one time. So they respected and they carved their orders in temples. Here we are a very, very interesting, many seminars. I am starting with all these things again and again, so that please, you have to, it is very interesting thing how our temple were constructed. I am not saying how is construct, how the temple are building today. Whenever your client visited me, I asked them a question, sir, whether you want a temple or a temple-like structure. If you want a temple, I have to apply all the conditions mentioned in the Shilpa Shastras. I must do it. I must obey all the orders of Shilpa Shastra. If you want, then it be a temple. I am going to construct a temple. If you want a temple-like structure, simply as a temple-like structure, there are thousands of peoples, and you should approach them. Lot of difference between the temple and temple-like structures. Previously, up to 16th or 17th century, temples were built. After that, we are building temple-like structures. So, what is the process of the temple construction in previous years? Here on the left side, the Vishwakarman, the architect, traditional architect, he goes for the meditation. In the Shilpa text, all the verses in the Shilpa text says that not as a mere explanation or the description or the prescription for construction of the temple, but they are called as a dhyana sloka. So it is not the description, it's not the procedure for constructing temple, but the verses are very essential for meditation. Thus, Tapadi must go for the meditation. For meditation, yama, niyama, what we call the asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, so it leads to the upper level, the meditation, that is the trance, that is the samadhi, in which nirvikalpa samadhi, savikalpa samadhi, the two samadhis are called, in which nirvikalpa samadhi, there is known, knower, and the knowledge, all are combined together. That is the total trance. It is called nirvikalpa samadhi. In this state, your Vishwakarman understand the realizing his soul realization of what Upanishads are giving instruction or explaining what is soul to know they self, that is soul realization. In the state of soul realization, they visualize the gods, they understood their qualities, they capture their view, so everything, the God blessed the Vishwakarman or the architects, the God gave his whole darshan to him, so that he come down to the material world and with undeviating attention and full concentration, he go to construction of the temple. What he was visualized in the Nirvikalpa Samadhi. The temple is a sacred place, consists on a sacred space, which was realized by an architect during his Nirvikalpa Samadhi. The knowledge of the space, the knowledge of the construction was obtained by, not obtained, it is received by the Stapati, that was revealed by the God. So temple in the materialistic form, material form. So what is, it was a one-time process. Yes, architects go for the Nirvikalpa Samadhi, realize the soul, merge with the God, take darshan of the God, and come back come down as a man, as an architect. He was going to construct the temple. So his one-time process was closed about 1,000 years or 1,500 years ago. But after the Kumbhabhisheka, inauguration of function of the temple, the devotees on the right side, you see the devotees for the past 1,000 years, 1,500 years, 2,000 years, they are going to the temple, taking pradakshana and taking darshan of the God. After darshan, they go for the trance, and then they realize their soul. That is the soul realization. That is the prime object of every individual devotee. So one-time process of an architect in the left side, the right side, thousands and crores of the people visiting the temple, visualizing the God and realizing their souls. It is the process of constructing the temple. It is a fundamental and it is the ultimate aim of constructing the temple. Construction of the temple means for the people, each and every people, also for the cattle, also for the plants, also must come out from that of birth and prevent the rebirth and attain the moksha. That is the aim. This is the process of constructing the temple. Next. So how it is possible? Sorry, sir. How it is possible? Is it believable? Every architect as a yogi, like yogi, he attained the Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Yes, it is possible. That is why Ananda Kumaraswamy says, the architect, the Stapadi, must depend upon the Veda. Veda is giving the inspiration to us. Every day in my house, still today we are practicing some special prayer using the Veda mantras. We are getting how to get the inspiration, how to get the direct, how to receive the direct revelation of God, Devatas. So we are very familiar with the Devata, Tvashta. Tvashta is the divine architect who builds the subtle structure in the subtle form. Tvashta Rupanam Adhipati, it is mentioned. So whatever the organic or the inorganic form, the Tvashta is responsible for it. From the Tvashta, by the special prayers, as well as his next level of the Tvashta, there is a god Sutanva. The Sutanva has Devata Sutanva mentioned in the Veda, 3 sons, Rupu, Vibha and Vaja, 3 sons of Sutanva. Sutanva taking the power from the previous one, sir. Previous one. Taking power from the strength from the Tvashta. So Tvashta giving the subtle level of revelation to the architect. That revelation, that is because of the Tvashta, we are receiving the divine source of inspiration. The inspiration not belongs to architect. The inspiration coming only because of Tvashta. So always we are depend upon the inspiration given by the God. Still today, I am practitioner of the temple construction. I am planning, executing the temple only because of the Tvashta and Ribu, Vibha and Vaja. They are guiding us, they are guiding me, they are revealing me, they are giving the inspiration to me. Regarding the personal knowledge of the architect, that is acquired knowledge, that acquired knowledge is very, very negligible. We should not take on our acquired knowledge. We are not giving the much importance to the acquired knowledge. If any architect using, temple architect using his own personal knowledge instead of the divine source of inspiration, his personal knowledge interfere with the God's inspiration, substitute its own inferior initiation, habitual thoughts, ideas, and skill, all are coming at the moment the divine source of inspiration to be corrupted, to be distorted, so that the traditional Vishwakarmas of yesteryears, still some families, we are always seeking the divine source for our inspiration. Next. The principles of temple construction mentioned in our Shilpa text. Number one, selection of sites. Two, system of measurement to be adopted. Determine the direction. Determine the temple characteristic and purpose. Characteristics of base, pillar, roof, multi-story or one story or whatever may be. The prime and the parivara devatas. Next. So, what is the principles? The principles are taking a selection of site. That's okay. It is mentioned in our Shastras. Then we are going to take a scale. Nowadays, we are using scale, which is a universal validity, millimeter, centimeter, so acre. So all these things are universal. But in our ancient days, our ancestors used a different scale for different temples. If you built a temple, if I am going to build a temple in my area, I have to use 1.4 scale. If I asked to construct a temple about 200 kilometers or 500 kilometers away from my home, so I have to use a different scale, taking in the account of the length of the grain which is available, which was harvested in that particular area. Because here, Tvaya Pridhivi, there is a parental pair mentioned in the Rigveda more than 125 times. What it means, the sky, that is a Swarga, it is called a father principle. Earth is a mother principle. From father principle, unmanifested, undetermined force, it is undetermined, it is not definable also. All kind of energies are coming to the earth. The earth observe that energy. From that, the paddy or the yava was grown. The height of the yava or the width of the yava or the paddy grain, we are taking that measurement as basic unit of the temple construction. From the father principle to earth mother principle, paddy field, paddy, we are taking 8 paddy, the width of the 8 pad is taken as 1 angula or the 1 inch for constructing the very big and very grand temples. So each temple in our country, we have our ancestors adopted the different scales. Next. Next. Sir, next, sir. Then determining the direction. So nowadays we are using the magnetic compass, but our ancestors, while constructing the temple, always used sun as a reference. So taking the sun as a reference, we are determining the scale, determining the directions, that is cardinal directions, as well as the intermediate directions, thick and V-thick. Next. So while we are after selection of the area, and then go for the direction that is perfect east, Sutta Prachi. With reference to the Sutta Prachi, the others, north, south, and other directions were determined. So it's called as the center. The center point was marked. If it is a rectangle, the diagonals are intersect. The point is called the center. The center is what we called technically as the Nabhi. The sixth direction of spatial extension, before, behind, left, right, above, below, and the three division of time, present, past, future, are contained in the dimensionless center. We are called a center is not the shunya, it is not the vacant place, but it is a most vibrant, as a most dynamic place. So in our temples were constructed, taking the 2 or 3 centers, and all the centers are considered as sacred. From that center, all the energies are coming out divergent, as well as all the energies are convergent to the particular place. So that the center is very, very important for the construction of the temple. Next. This is a ground plan. The ground plan is a perfect rectangle. How to make the rectangle, how to make the square, how to make the round and the square, what is a round and the square, the perimeter of the round is equivalent to that of the square. All these calculations are coming in the Kalpa Sutras and the Sulva Sutras. The principles were taken from the Vedic text. So all the temples are having the perfect rectangle or the square, or 2 squares are joined together and make a 1 rectangle. From that place, we are dividing that place into the different grids. Next. So here, Tanjore Pragadishwara temple, we should understand the 1 square, the left side, that temple is there. There is another square, there is also a center. In the third place is outside the temple, there is a Gopura, that is an entrance tower is there. So all the 1, 2, 3 places, 3 squares are joined together, especially 2 squares are closely joined and the centers are taken. The first center in the left side is taken as the Garbhagraha or the Garbhagudi in other languages, that is a Garbhagraha, marked as, that is the Nabhi, that is the center. Next. So then the whole area of the temple complex is divided into the multiple grids. The one if the temple complex, the total temple area considered as a one square or the one square, it is called sakala. Sakala means all. So similarly, joining together the another square. So now the rectangle is also called as the sakala. Then one area of that is a one rectangle or the one square, it is converted into the different grids. That is one sakala, pechaka, pida, mahapita, chandida, mandukya, mandugapada, paramasai, and the indraganda. So it is, we are dividing the one box, that is a one grid, one area into, it is called sakala. If it is divided into 4 equal part grids, it is called pecha. If it is divided into the 124 grids, 124 square, it is called Indraganta. According to that, the deities are, how the deities are spread in there. It is a very, very basic for construction of the temple to identifying the sacred places and sacred points. Next. So here, that one temple complex is divided into the 81 grids, in which each grid, 81 each place, the center, in connection with the rest of the center. If you take the one center, it is in constant touch with that of the entire temple, that is all the 80 points in connection with that of one particular center. So it is a multiple level. It means the energy reside in the temple complex is so vibrant, so dynamic. It is always in contact with that of the center, which is called Nabi, as well as it is called Garbhagraha, that is the center of the Garbhagraha. Also we call as a Brahmastan. So it is just like a web of the high energy. It is a high energy field. How we are making it by dividing into the multiple grids. That grids, and we worship each grid by mantras, particular mantra for the each and every grids, and each and every grid having the special offering of flowers, as well as fruits, as well as of the Naivedya, rice, etc. in all the 81 places. So we are invoking the God. We are not identifying God. We are invoking the God. We are prostrating to all the 81, and we are ask the deities to give their blessings to everybody to be visited the to be visiting the temple for next 1,000 and thousands of years. That is the what we called as the Vastu Mandala. Nowadays, most perverted term. Now, so many European scholars are writing is the Vastu Purusha Mandala. Probably Dr. Apte, well known about it. Vastu Purusha Mandala. There is no such word in the Shilpa text. Vastu is there, Mandala is there, but I do not know where is the Purusha coming, especially from the US scholar. The Purusha is in between the Vastu and the Mandala. Next. So this temple designed by me it is a new temple to be constructed. It is designed by me, taking into consideration of all the points mentioned in the Shilpa Shastra, as well as which are mentioned in the oral tradition from my father. Next. Here, so, in temple planning, we use ground plan that is called Tachandas, and then we are constructing by bricks or the granite. The temple was each and every day the temple is going on, and the construction was done in previously. So the left side is actually Tanjore Bragadishwara temple. In the right side, that is the plan of the temple. The right side temple plan is called Urdhva Chantas. Chantas, that is a rhythm. It is a Urdhva Chantas. In the left side building, left side is a temple, right side is the plan of the temple. Next. Previous one, sir. Previous one. Sir, previous one. Okay. So I want to tell you something about what is the significance of it. Now you know that a temple complex is a place where high power energy, vibrant dynamic energy revealed by the gods, so that each and every inch of the temple was calculated meticulously according to Shilpa text, and all the deities were offered flowers, sandal, as well as the Naivedya, everything offered during the period of temple construction starting. After that also, ritually all the gods were prayed every day. That is why the most vibrant energy is there. The energy, I am with a little, not little, much hesitation, I am using the word vibration and power, etc. I am not satisfied with that of the English terminology. A Sanidhya is there. The Sanidhya is in very high, so that a temple is the high power zone in which a person are entering into the temple, he is influenced by that power. So comparing that of that power, a human being is very, very smallest. Just you thinking, if you are visiting a temple, you are standing in an open space within the temple premises. So the distance between you and the sun, if you are making it, we are very, very negligible. So that within the temple, we are also not a person, we are also a part of a temple, part of a temple. That is why, while we are entering into the temple, the space, what is the space of a human being? If 5 years, there is, he is 5 years, he is some height, some weight, it is a development, that is a growth. We call it as a space. The space, 5 years is the time, is a growth is measured as the space. So here in the temple, the unmanifested energy, undefinable energy was completely occupying that particular area in a very, very high density, so that while we are entering that space, we are very, very negligible. So that is why whatever we are prarartha karma or the sanchita karma, all the karmas were diminishing. If you are entering step by step to all the places of pradakshina of the temple, and wherever the place you stayed there or standing, sitting, or meditating, so you are merged, you are in contact with that of the particular deity, so that you are influenced by the deity, you are blessed by that particular deity, so that your space and time is very negligible comparing to God's grace. So all the person to be elevated, that is very, very definite. Sanchita karma or the prarabdha karma, whatever may be, if you visited a old temple, all the prarabdha karma dissolve, because I am constructing the temple not for the money. Money is necessary for me, but I am constructing the temple Silpam Moksha Sadhanam. I am constructing the temple only for the purpose of moksha. That is the attainment of the moksha. That is my aim. That is my objective of constructing the temple. Similarly, whoever having the papa or the punya, whatever may be, Sankaracharya visited the temples. Ramanujacharya visited the temple. Madhvacharya visited the temple. Why? Because they know the place is so vibrant, the place where God is residing there, so that they want to mingle with the God. So they visited the temple. So I request my friends, if you go to a temple, go with your family and children, spend much time within the temple and worship the God and come out. So it is my humble request, because this the place is not for the amusement, it is not the tourist, but it was calculated by the rishis and munis, that was worked by the constructed by the same architects. Next. In temples, we are normally seeing the designs, so floral patterns, animals, signs, etc. They are all not mere designs, but these are all the symbolism. All the designs are having the meaning that is, in other words, these are all the explanation or the commentary of Vedas and the Upanishads. So that is why these are all not the mere floral patterns or the geometrical patterns, etc., but they are symbols of God. The mere visualize the symbol itself elevates, may give us energy. Actually, I am more than 100% sure, whoever visiting the temple pillars are interact with you. The yalis are the animals, elephants, whatever may be, they are interact with you. They want to elevate you. Just. So pillars. The pillars are very, very important. Sun, according to Veda, sun is called as a stamba. The skamba, stamba, stuna, pada. So these are all many words. These are explained in the Vedas, the significance of the stampa. So the stampa, there are hundreds of stampas in the each and every temple. So the pillars are having the certain characteristics, certain ideas. These ideas are giving not only designs, the designs have the power, they are giving the lot of energy, they have the power to interact with you. Sometimes we may felt it physically, sometimes we may felt it mentally. Most of the time it has contact with us in a conscious level, very conscious level. We may not understand. Only the rishis and munis and saints may understand the conscious level as well as supra-conscious level. So in physical level also it works. In the mental level, what we simply call is Annamaya Kosa, Pranamaya Gosa, Vijnanamaya Gosa, Manonmaya Gosa, all the Gosas, that pillars are interact with us. So then we go for the Ananta. Next, the pillar is called the cosmic pillar, that is in which all the gods or all the universe, all the galaxies are joined together. This is called Amrita Kalasa. Amritam is the celestial water. It is not the mere water. Whatever we are taking is Achamana, while it is at least one must take the Achamana for at least 100 times, so that it is called Amrita. This Amrita is giving us the strength for our mind toward focusing towards the God. It gives a direction to us. So that is why we called whatever Gangeja, Yamuneja, Godavari, Narmada, Sindhu, Kaveri, whatever, all the water are celestial waters. They have the capability for giving us the energy. So it is mentioned the Amrita Kalasa in the temples. Next. So this is also divine consciousness. From the Stamba, how the divine consciousness to be elevated. For that, there are certain designs are there. So these are all designs for a mere sight. But actually, just like that of alphabet, in the alphabet, in English alphabet, we are writing something, it gives the meaning. So in Chinese, we do not know. We say that it is just like the lines are there. So similarly, for our mere understanding, I say, these designs are having the capability to interact with you, to elevate you. These are all not the artwork or the design work. This is artwork as well as the design work, as well as interact with you. Next. So in temples, if you visit there, temple is the macrocosmic, one temple. Within the temple, if you go there, lot of in a pillar, for example, a pillar, if you take a pillar, the best for the Kolhapur Lakshmi Mata temple is one of the oldest temple. So, in which the temple, big temple, if a pillar is there, within the pillar, small temples are there. What it means, just like the nanotechnology, that is a universe is a macrocosmic, in which a temple is a miniature of the macrocosmic, in which small temples carved in the pillar, in the base, in roof level. So in the story also, these are all called miniature temples are there. It simple principle is within the great cosmic universe, small universes are there. Like that, in a big temple, there are thousands of small temples are there. Next. So this is one of the very beautiful temple in the Tanjavur Brigadishwara temple, constructed in the 16th century, Subramanya temple, one of the great and rare type of temple, in which all kind of symbolism, all kind of the secret codes, all kind of the secret symbolism were excellently carved by Veerappa Acharya. Next. Next, sir. So it is a other side of the Subramanya temple. You know how beautiful the granites were taken and carved it and fixed it about 400, 500 years ago also. It is a very, still it is, looks very nice, in which I want to tell you, there are a lot of visual theories are there. Modern visual theories are there. According to my estimate, that we are far away from the Europeans or the Americans. about 1000 years we are forward, because our concept, modern ideas of visual theories, anybody must visit, if visited the temple, they may actually connect with their modern theories. So all kind of modern theories to be dissolved here. And next. So there is in visual language, we are using, while I am teaching the college, visual, that is visual communication, or the communication engineering, or the design engineering. I always support our temple, because the temple has so many concepts of the visual dynamics, deviation, simple to complex, and composition, weight, projection. So everything is adopted in the temple. Next. So here also the same temple. For I want to mention you, the two arrows are there. In between, the place is called Adhisthana. The Adhisthana in Sanskrit language, it is the seat. It is Adhisthana Arambana. It is mentioned in the Rigveda 10th mandala of Sukta number 81. The Adhisthana is a place where God is standing there. So every part of the Adhisthana was minutely, very, very excellently mentioned in the Shilpa text. The proportion of the Adhisthana are always mentioned very clearly. According to Shilpa Shastra, there are many varieties of Adhishthanas. So why these Adhisthana variations are there? The Adhisthana variations are adapted according to the desire of the people. Desire of the king is a taking main consideration. If a king wants the wealth for his nation, for his country, they design some kind of Adhisthana. If they want the education, buddhi, so we designed the Vishwakarmas, designed some other kind of Adhisthana. So the Adhisthana, otherwise we called the base of the temple, is a very carefully done by our ancestors. Still, the texts are very clear about it. Next. I am extend my gratitude and thanks to the Pradhisthana, as well as to Dr. Bedekar and Dr. Prashant Ji, Dr. Prabhakar Apte, and my friends. Thank you very much.
Hello.
Hello. Anything you must ask?
Any question? Dr. Apte would like to rejoin you. Dr. Prabhakar Apte.
गणपती स्थपतींच्या फार पुढे गेले. उमापती फारच सुंदर. शिष्यात इच्छेत पराजयम.
Shishyad Ichet Parajayam.
Umapati.
It was wonderful session, sir. I am really thankful to you because you have opened our eyes. And the people those who are watching us live, and even this video will be available forever on our Facebook page of Samanvaya Pratishthan. and there are some people they are watching us, there are viewers, they are going through it. But personally, we have opened our eyes. I had been to Konark 2 years back, and as you have said, visual communication and other things. I teach to media students, and there is a specific topic there called visual communication, and there are modern theories of visual communication. But as you said, we are 1,000 years ahead of the time that Europeans are thinking. Unfortunately, people are they should revisit our roots, and that is the platform. That is why we have come out with this wonderful session, sir. And I extend a great gratitude for you, and I'm very much thankful to you for giving this wonderful seminar.
Yeah.
As Prabhakar Apte sir has rightly mentioned, Shishyadichet Prajayam. So it is wonderful, and I extend my heartfelt thanks to Dr. Prabhakar Apte ji as well, because he is instrumental to bring you here on this platform. And thank you very much. And to all the listeners, those who are listening to us, your students, and after listening you, I feel like coming to Kumbakonam and knowing many facets from you, and will be very happy to come there, sir. And I thank you all. Thank you all
Thank
for joining us. Thank you very much. Pranam.
Pranam.
तुला थँक्यू. याच्यावर ते काही जमलं नाही. बरं झालं